Hi guys, today we are going to work on our 2.3 subtracting rational numbers notes. Our I can statement: I can subtract rational numbers and solve real life problems. Subtracting rational numbers. To subtract rational numbers, you are going to use the same rules for signs that you used for integers. So when we used our integer rules, we said keep, change, change. We are changing all of our subtraction problems into addition. So for example, we have 2/5 minus negative 1/5. So because both of them have the same denominator, we are able to use our keep, change, change. So we are going to keep the 2/5 the same. We are going to change our subtraction sign into an addition sign and our negative into a positive. From here, just like we did in 2.3 or 2.2, we are going to add our numerators. So we have 3/5. We keep our bottom one the same. Just remember that when we are adding or subtracting fractions, you have to make sure that they have the same or common denominator. Okay, so let's take a look at our first example, subtracting rational numbers. For this one, we are going to set it up the same way we just did our example above. So we are going to have -4 1/7 minus -6 sevenths. So in class, we have been turning our mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to take our denominator and multiply it by the whole, and then add the numerator. So 4 times 7, we have 28, plus 1 is 29. So I have a -29 sevenths minus -6 sevenths. So because both of them have the same denominator, I am able to go through and do my keep, change, change. So I keep the 29 sevenths the same, change, and then change my sign. So change it to addition and change it to a positive. So I'm going to subtract because they are opposite signs. So I have -29 minus 6. That leaves me with 23. And because the 29 is larger, I'm going to take the sign that it had with it. So I'm going to use a -23 sevenths. From here, I am going to turn this into a mixed number. How many times can 7 go into 23? It can go in 3 times, and it would have 2 left over because 3 times 7 gives me 21. From 21 to 23 is 2. So I would have -3 and 2 sevenths. We're going to do that same kind of idea for subtracting our decimals. Okay, so we have 12.8 minus 21.6. We don't have to check about our common denominators at this point. We just need to make sure that we use our keep, change, change. So I have 12.8 minus 21.6. So I am going to keep my original, my first one, change, and then change. So I change this to addition, and I change this to its opposite. So because I now have an addition problem, I have 2 opposite signs, so a positive and a negative. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to start with my larger value, absolute value, so 21.6, 21 and 6/10, minus 12.8. It's really important to remember to line up our decimal points when we are adding or subtracting. So from here, I need to do a little bit of borrowing. So 16 minus 8 gives me 8. 10 minus 2 gives me 8. My decimal point, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So I need to remember what is, if it's positive or negative, I need to look at my larger value because the 21.6 is my larger value. I still have negative left over. So I have -8 and 8/10, so -8.8. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. You have 6 try on your own. Give those a try. All right, we are going to be looking at a number line. So I want to make sure that we understand this next part. It says the distance between any 2 numbers on a number line is the absolute value of the difference of those numbers. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we are going through this next part. All right, example 3, finding the distances between numbers on a number line. So over here on the right, we have a vertical number line that we're working with. We're going to be finding the distance between those 2 numbers, okay, over here. So what we're going to do first is we are going to have to take the absolute values and we're going to find the difference between them. Okay, so we're looking for the difference just between those two values. So I have 2 1/3 minus a negative 2 2/3. So like before, we've been turning things into improper fractions. So I'm going to turn 2 1/3 into an improper fraction. It should be 7/3 minus a negative 8/3. Okay, and just like before, we're going to use our keep, change, change. So we keep our first sign the same, we change, and we change. So the difference between these two numbers is 15/3, or 5, and we're taking the absolute value of that. So we're going to have 5 as our value. Okay, the distance between 2/3 and negative 2 2/3. All right. An example 4. In the water, the bottom of a boat is 2.1 feet below the surface, and the top of the boat is 8.7 feet above it. Towed on a trailer, the bottom of the boat is 1.3 feet above the ground. Can the boat and the trailer pass under the bridge? All right, so we need to talk about how large this boat actually is. So it says at the surface of the water, the top of the boat is 8.7 feet above it. So we have 8.7 feet, or 8 feet and 7 tenths. So 8.7 minus, we're trying to find the difference between the two. And it says the bottom of the boat is 2.1 feet below. So that's below the surface. So that's underwater. So that's in the negative range. Here, we now are able to do our keep, change, change. So I keep my 8 7 tenths the same. I change my sign from subtraction to addition, and I change my negative into a positive. I'm going to line up my decimal point because I have the same sign. So I'm going to add them together. So 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. So I have 10.8 feet altogether of a boat that stands from the bottom to the top. Now it says it's towed on a trailer. The bottom of the boat is 1.3 feet above the ground. So now I'm adding an additional 1.3 feet to this. So I have 1.3 added to my original 10.8 for my boat height. So I have 8 plus 3 gives me 11. Carry my 1. I have 12.1 feet that the bottom of the trailer up to the top of the boat, that's how tall it stands. However, to pass under this bridge, it needs to be 11 feet 8 inches. Unfortunately, our height of our boat is in the 12-foot range. So it says, can the boat and trailer pass under the bridge? No, it cannot. Go ahead and pause the video and try the next 2 examples on your own.